Hi everyone, so today we got to play
Tang Garden.
Got nothing to do with the drink.
It doesn't? Play the whole game wrong.
so overall, basically you are building a garden, a Japanese garden, and you're trying to...
Chinese garden. Classic Chinese garden. There's a huge difference between Japanese and Chinese.
Is that anything like Aztec and Mayan?
Could be.
Okay, good.
Aztec and Egyptian, though.
Or that
totally
too.
different.
So are we done making fun of me now?
No, you said Egyptian.
Doesn't matter.
Not even on the same
We're
planet.
done. We're done.
All right, Chinese garden, okay? And so basically it is somewhat like Carcassonne in that you're trying, though, like the water has to touch the water and the pathways have to touch, and so when you're placing your tiles, you do have to follow those kind of rules. But it is different in the fact that obviously there's ornamentation in the garden that you also place. You also place landscapes, and then you also place different people that are in the garden. And depending on where they're facing, you'll also get victory points based on what their card says. The victory points in this game is just general money. But other than that, I think that's pretty much the overall game thing.
Yeah, it's very simple play. On your turn, you're either placing a tile on the board or you're placing a decoration on the board, and based on what you do, you're gonna develop the landscape. That's really the whole game, is developing the landscape, and it builds this beautiful panorama scene. And you've got different people that are going to give you victory points based on where they're at. You get points based upon the decorations you play, and those are set collection points.
And variable player powers based off the people.
Yes.
So you can also have abilities.
Yeah. So generally, quality of pieces, all I've got to say is this is beautiful. We took a couple of snapshots. We'll post them in before at the end of the video. And
or we could do some right now if we wanted.
Truly.
See if I can magically conjure one.
It's not going to happen.
I'll just look like an idiot for going.
That's not a stretch.
That's not a change in any
but
way, shape,
you could
or
make
form.
me look really impressive by magically conjuring one, and they
Every
would never
time.
know how it happened. But
Oh yeah.
So, but
the magic of movies.
okay, let's get back to quality of pieces, guys. But it is absolutely breathtaking to view. They've done wonderful with the colors, the tiles. I mean, I want to go to this garden that we created. My only concern is if we actually...
You wouldn't fit. You're too big. You have to be like this tall.
So anyway, I'm going to ignore him tonight. It seems going to be the best way to do this.
He said you were too big.
My only concern is that you wouldn't necessarily get as breathtaking a view if we actually ended the game when maybe we were supposed to.
This would be more like the end game if we just yank a few of
Don't
these
ruin
out.
the pretty board.
But it's true.
So
We'll randomly yank that one.
no.
That's more like it.
That's
So
more
if
like
I end up playing this game, we will probably be house ruling it, is that we get to play until the board's complete. That's the way I'm going to play this game. But quality of pieces, absolutely beautiful. You have cardboard trees, very similar to what you see.
And photosynthesis.
Photosynthesis. You've got beautiful miniatures that are actually fairly detailed.
They match the cards really well.
Mm-hmm.
They really do. I'm excited to attempt to paint these. The tiles are absolutely gorgeous.
Awesome.
Oh yeah, these are fantastic. I mean, just everything is just eye candy, and they did a really good job on doing the detail for these. The art's beautiful. I was excited. What did you guys think?
Cardboard is decent. I mean, you got cardboard chips, and there's nothing fancy about those. The cardboard money, again, pretty standard cardboard. But the cards are really good stocking and textured, so I really like that. Both the small ones and the larger character cards. And but the terrain tiles, again, not super thick. Could have been maybe a little bit thicker, but really there's nothing to complain about. Everything's just top notch.
So, give it a score, guys.
I'd give it a 9.
Yeah, I think 9's fair. I mean, it's beautiful. The individual components are not, just outstanding, but they're good. They're quality.
Mhm.
But when you put it all together, it just looks. It makes a very impressive table display.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if you were to play this at a convention, it would stop people because it's got a table presence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with the 9 wholeheartedly. Theme. Again, this shines. I mean,
does.
you just look at the table. Even though you took some of the landscape out.
I'm just trying to emulate what the game would actually more effectively look like. You
Yeah.
wouldn't have a complete panorama.
But with the 3D element of it, it does. You get down here and kind of really looking close. It kind of feels like you're in a garden, and
Mhm.
it's just kind of neat that you're able to feel that through a board game, and so
Yeah.
you don't get that very often.
No, this is truly spectacular. When you talk about theme and drawing you in, this does it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I thought photosynthesis was impressive with the table display of it.
And it
This
still is.
This is
And this
actually
is better.
even better.
Yeah, so this is better.
So, theme, what would you rate it, guys? I'm sorry, I have to give it a 10, guys. I just don't know what you could have done better as far as theme goes. It's consistent throughout. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's eye-catching. I mean, people are going to stop and ask about this game if you had this out. I can't imagine not giving this a 10.
I'm struggling because I've only one I've given 10 to the theme is Battlestar, and it definitely earned it. And this one doesn't have any kind of rules that necessarily incorporate it, but it does such a good job of portraying a garden and a Chinese garden. And I mean, I'll give it a 10.
I don't feel bad about giving it a 10.
Oh, I do, because
don't.
Battlestar's way better of a game, darn it.
But we're talking about theme, all right?
I know, I'd give it a 10 reluctantly.
Thematically, it's great. It's just awesome.
It's gorgeous. What do we think about the rules?
Now, this is where we're going to be taking a few points away. All right, so the rules are pretty. I mean, the art in them is nice, and they've got pictures to display things. A few of the pictures, there was like one in here in particular that didn't get referenced at all. They had the explanation down here of the gameplay, but it was referring to the one below. So the picture up here is just extraneous. It had no purpose whatsoever. That was really odd. But the biggest issue with this is there's a lot of iconography in this game. There are the card definitions and the iconography on those. Once you've played, you won't really need this. But the first playthrough, we had to refer to this a lot. And there was... there's icons about how to use the lanterns. There's icons about the back page is all about how the players' characters score and how their ongoing abilities are. This is laid out nicely on the back, so this wasn't as big of a deal. But it would have been nice to have cheat sheets, particularly on the cards and what some of the icons did, during the game. But we had to keep flipping in and looking up each one as we played, and it was distracting. So I'm going to give this one a 7. It wasn't hard to read it. It was more the interpretation of the things. And there was a lot of stuff that we did wrong that we corrected during the game. And then we finally just gave up and played it all the way through to its fruition.
So you said an 8 or 7?
7.
7. I agree with the 7. I think for me, sitting here listening to the rules, there was so much of it. It was hard to understand.
Yeah,
the rules.
it was way harder than the game.
So once we got playing, I'd say even after the first round, we got a pretty good grasp on how to play the game. Yeah, we had to keep looking up some of the semantics of the iconography, but playing the game, we had it down.
Mm-hmm.
So that part wasn't hard. It felt like the rules made it seem a lot more difficult than what it really was.
Yes.
Well, and maybe it was trying to explain concepts that are more familiar with us because we've played Carcassonne, because we've played...
I think as someone who's new to gaming, they would have a harder time with that rule book than
I think it would be more confusing, particularly around there's places like the walls that says they don't, like the edge of the board doesn't cut off an area, but the walls do, and there's different things like that as a new player playing the game, it's going to cause some confusion.
I agree.
And we got hung up on landscape token because the tokens that we were thinking landscape were not at all what the tokens were, and that was just because we breezed over that. But it was hard to follow through initially, but once we got into it,
gameplay
Yeah.
smoothed out quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a bad rule book. I just think
It's just not a good
it's
one.
not laid out perfectly, and there's like it's having pictures that have extraneous with no reference to them was kind of silly, and then the lack of any kind of a cheat sheet at all, and incorporating some of it in the middle of the book. I mean, if this back page had everything, but it didn't. You
Right.
know, it had the most important part, which is the player's powers. That was useful.
Okay, I agree with your assessments because again, I didn't listen to rules.
But you were here this time.
You were.
You were sitting here. You were just on your phone and in your own world.
I was painting sheep.
Okay.
I was painting sheep.
Because who doesn't paint sheep every once in a while?
While rules are being explained, that's a useful time to paint sheep.
All right. So what's next?
So next is gameplay.
I think Miranda kind of laid it out pretty much as she's stated on how to play. But you got 4 stacks, 4 corners, and each corner represents a different color of terrain. And so you got water, you got paths, you got
No, you have water, land, and forest. And wild. This is
Okay.
basically anything. It's the yin yang. It could be any type.
And unlike Carcassonne, where Carcassonne, the bigger the terrain type is, the more you get out of it. This one, it doesn't really care how big the terrain type is. It's just if it's completed. And so if it's completed, then you get to be able to mark up your basically stats, but the different resources, blue, green, and yellow. And then you increase those, it gives you access to additional characters, it gives you additional powers, it gives you more scoring options, and then you got the cards, and so you got the decorations. And so the decorations also give you the ability to increase your stats, but just that's what makes the board look beautiful is the decorations.
And you each start with 4 tokens that let you kind of bend the rules of the game a bit. You can only use them once per game unless you re-enable them by collecting the landscape tokens, which we misinterpreting.
Yeah,
but if you collect 3 of the same one, you can cash them in and flip back over one of those tokens to use again. And they're super powerful. They can let you play 2 tiles or 2 cards at a time.
And then that's how we also got to build the outlying landscape is when you place a tile on top of it, then you get to take a pick of either a face up or one that's laying down off to the side and how you place it. So you can place it anywhere on the map, but they all have the icons, and those icons are what gives your characters scoring abilities.
Yeah, so you want to position them where they're most beneficial for you, but other people might be positioning tiles in the wrong spots.
I may have been doing that on purpose.
Yeah.
You still won though.
But one thing that really surprised me is that there was a lot more depth to this game than I thought.
Yeah,
there
I was
going
not
to
expecting
be.
much out of it,
I
honestly.
kind of went into this thinking and feeling that it was going to be like a Takanoko
Yeah.
or something like that, where it was relaxing.
Tokaido, you mean? Takanoko is the one with the panda bears eating.
Yeah,
Oh,
I agree
okay.
with both. In Tokaido.
Well, it's
But-
not the same at all as Tokaido.
Well, no, Tokaido and Takanoko have the same feeling of where it helps me relax in playing a game. They're very light and they're easy to play, and this one had more depth to that. And so I was surprised.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised because I was not expecting much. I knew it was going to be pretty. That I knew, but I didn't know it was going to have the depth that it did. Because I was expecting you take your turn and that's
Right.
it. You just pass on and you just kind of look at the board and kind of like Tokaido. And it turns out it was way more involved. Than
Yeah, there's definitely tension in this where
Yes.
there isn't in Takanoko, where I might want a particular tile type and then Miranda grabs it, or Dwight did it to me a couple of times where he grabbed the tiles that I was really trying to grab, and so I wasn't able to get to them.
Well, and then also the pieces when 3 of the corners were not flipped over, then you flipped it over. So it's like,
Right.
well, I don't like this set, so I'm going to force them to take it, and I'll take decorations this time. So there was a little bit of strategy, and plus you didn't want to set someone else up to close off an area, right? So but then you wanted to close off an area, right? So you put on these pieces and you end up making it too big, and then you can't even close it off. So it's just, it takes a lot more thought, and I loved it because of that. But at the same time, it is still very straightforward. Pick your tile, place it down, or pick a card and play it down. So it's it's easy for those beginners, but at the same time, there's a lot of strategy to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely approachable from an audience that's not a heavy gamer type, but yet it gives that level of involvement that someone like we would want to play. You know, it wouldn't be something we're going to be bored playing quickly.
I don't think it's an intro game, but it's not. It's. I would say it's right on the cusp of being a medium weight game. Maybe not quite to medium weight.
It's a light to medium.
It's light to medium. So I was just really impressed, and like I said, there was a lot more meat to it than what I initially thought there would be.
Yeah.
So guys, give it a score.
Overall score, I'd give it a 9. I really enjoyed it. There's for a light to medium weight game, I was really pleasantly surprised, and I would love to play it again and see what else the game can offer, because there's a lot of strategies and things that I can explore in that I didn't get an opportunity to.
Yeah, I really kind of agree. I thought this was a great, fun game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really just kind of calls to you, and but it's not. Yeah, so I agree. It's beautiful. What'd you think?
I think it's more of an 8. I don't think it's quite. There's not enough gameplay in it to me to be a 9. To me, I always rate the higher scores for the ones that have more depth to the game. This one is not one that's really heavy in depth. It's heavy in just the beauty it's creating, and the idea of scoring points. That piece of it, I wouldn't say there's more depth than I was expecting, but it's still not a heavy depth game. It's not
no, it's not a heavy game. It is a light to medium game.
Mm-hmm.
But I wouldn't go into this game wanting that anyway.
Well, I
mean,
wasn't until I sat down and started playing it. Then I was wishing there was more. You know.
But now that I know, it's a game that I could approach saying, yeah, it's more to it than Takenoko, but still has that relaxing feeling to it that Takenoko has, and it's something I would look forward to playing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
There's an 8 is a great score.
No, 8 is a great score.
I was not expecting it to be anything. I honestly got it out and was half tempted to put it back because I was like, it's gonna look pretty, but we just played, the Ticket to Ride beautiful game, and it's like it's gonna be another pretty game that's gonna be uninteresting to play. And that's why I was like, it's going to be Ticket to Ride, but in China or Japan, depending on your geography.
It says China, so China it is.
But I just wasn't expecting this. I was really pleasantly surprised. I mean, I was expecting to give it a 6, and I'm coming in here giving it an 8, and that's because it's got a lot more depth to it than I was expecting.
Yeah. I think we've kind of already answered this question. Would you play it again?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because I want to see if I can score more trees.
Right.
Yeah, I do want to say we do need to complete the board. Like, I've got...
If it makes you happy, I'll put them back.
And looking on, and just for our Board Game Geek stats here, so designers are Francesco Testini and Pierluca Zizzi. Sorry if I mispronounced
Are you really
that.
just going to say you're trying to fill in the holes?
And then,
yes.
This would go there.
I'm talking kids.
Go ahead. We're going to fill in the board.
Artists are Matthew Mizak. It's by Thundergrip Games, and it's classified as set collection and tile placement.
Nobody's listening to this part anyway. We're just having fun. You're not going to be able to fit them all on the board.
No, but we can still fit. We got a couple of spots. I've got problems. It's okay.
She's OCD about these kinds of things. It's all right. I've learned to live with it.
Not that you're OCD about some
I
stuff,
am
right?
absolutely, maybe.
No.
Okay, all the time.
About everything.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He's worse than I am.
By 100 times.
Yep. So we have viewers, right?
Right.
Okay.
So, thank you guys so much for joining us.
She's going to be here for another hour playing this. If you want to watch, you can just leave the camera on. But I figure you probably don't.
No. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell if you'd like to see what we do. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Have a good night. See ya.
All right, thanks.